what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news doesn't matter.
So that was Pete Hegseth doing his best Dollar General Donald Trump impression, where he blames all of his latest scandals on fake news, where he dodges any and all accountability and finds a way to spin it that everyone's just out to get poor, pitiful them. That's MAGA. They're the party of victimhood, and they're the party of everyone is to blame but us. The one thing about Donald Trump's cabinet, before we get to talking here about Pete Hegseth and all the stuff he's got going on these days, the one thing about Donald Trump's cabinet is they're absolutely the most unqualified cabinet of all time, but that was kind of the whole point. They were never meant to be qualified. What they were meant to be is loyal to Donald Trump and Donald Trump only. That's who Donald Trump was surrounding himself with, was loyalists who would do his bidding. They weren't put there to better these departments. They weren't put there to strengthen them. They were put there to tear them down and completely rebuild them in the image of Project 2025 and in the image of the way Donald Trump wants it to go. So Pete Hegseth is in hot water again, and we should not be shocked. I mean, this is a dude who was completely unqualified for the position, but again, that was the whole point. We should not be shocked, though, that he is completely dropping and massively fumbling this ball, and then, of course, blaming it on fake news. So I'm going to be reading a couple of articles here from MidasNews.com, and I truly appreciate each and every one of your support out there. We've crossed over 700,000 subscribers, and I really appreciate all of you. So if you haven't already, be sure and hit that button. It doesn't cost anything to do so. If you like this kind of content, hit it and help us get to 1 million. But here's the first one, and this one comes to us from Aaron Parnas from MidasNews.com here. White House initiates search for new Secretary of Defense report. Now, the White House has denied the report, but I do want to talk about this story. In a stunning turn of events, NPR is reporting that the White House has begun the process of seeking a new Secretary of Defense, according to a U.S. official who spoke under condition of being anonymous. This development follows a rapidly escalating crisis within the Department of Defense as Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth faces mounting scrutiny and calls for his resignation amid a series of scandals and growing dysfunction at the Pentagon. Caroline Leavitt obviously has denied the NPR report. The unfolding turmoil at the Pentagon has drawn national attention, with multiple sources indicating that Hegseth's leadership is increasingly under fire. The crisis has been triggered by a wave of damaging leaks, internal infighting, and troubling revelations surrounding the handling of classified information. According to a recent Politico report, at least one former top official now believes that Hegseth may soon be forced out of office, as confidence in his ability to lead has rapidly eroded with the Defense Department. Going on down here, the pressure on Hegseth comes at a time when the Pentagon is grappling with several serious security breaches. Leaked information about sensitive U.S. military strategy, specifically related to operations in the Panama Canal region and in the Middle East, has sent shockwaves through senior military leadership. These revelations have not only tarnished the department's reputation, but have further isolated Hegseth, who, according to sources, believes that some of these leaks may have come from within his own inner circle. Hegseth's response to the situation has raised some concerns. Sources speaking to CNN describe a growing sense of paranoia within the secretary's ranks. In response to the leaks, Hegseth became increasingly suspicious and erratic, reportedly lashing out at senior military officials and advisors whom he suspected of undermining him. In one dramatic moment, Hegseth allegedly demanded that the FBI be brought in to investigate the leaks. However, his advisors cautioned against such a move, warning that an external investigation could draw even greater attention to the already volatile situation, especially as Hegseth himself is currently the subject of an ongoing Inspector General investigation. Perhaps the most damaging development in this saga is the revelation that Hegseth himself may have compromised national security by sharing sensitive military details over private messaging platforms. According to a report from the New York Times, Hegseth used the private messaging app Signal to share highly classified information regarding U.S. airstrikes in Yemen on March 15th. The information was reportedly shared with his wife, his brother, personal attorney, included precise flight schedules for FA-18 Hornets assigned to strike Houthi targets. Operational details are now normally protected by security protocols. But in an even more concerning twist, similar details were allegedly shared in a separate Signal group that included an editor from The Atlantic who received the information due to a reported mistake. The incident has raised serious concerns about the extent of the security breach, leaving many to question whether national security may have been compromised. At this time, it is unclear whether a formal damage assessment is underway. And this is an absolute classic MAGA move. Whenever they're the ones being investigated for their fumbles, they immediately call for the people pointing out their fumbles to be investigated. Donald Trump did the same thing with the January 6th committee. He thinks they're the ones that needs to be investigated. They're the ones that led a fake investigation into him. Pete Hegseth is playing right into the hands of Donald Trump with this attitude of, let's investigate the people who are investigating me for my mistakes because I'm clearly not qualified for the job. This dude is one of the biggest lost balls and high weeds of the entire Trump cabinet, and it's just going to continue to get worse. But luckily, there are some Republicans, at least one here, that's had enough, and I really believe you're going to see more of this. And I say this all the time when people says, Brando, how do we go about getting Trump out of office? Well, I really do believe it's going to have to be Republicans that step up to the plate. It was Republicans that got Nixon to step down. Right now, the Republicans have full control, and if they want to have a political career after all this, some of them are going to have to start cutting ties from the insanity. But I want to bring up this article here again. This one's from Aaron Parnas as well. And by the way, shout out to Aaron Parnas. I love his work. This is on Midas News as well. The first Republican lawmaker calls for Pete Hegseth's removal amid the Pentagon chaos, and this is likely the first of many. But in a dramatic development on Capitol Hill, Representative Don Bacon, a prominent Republican and former Air Force general, has become the first GOP lawmaker to publicly call for the removal of Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump's nominee for Secretary of Defense. According to Politico, Bacon has voiced his concerns about Hegseth's qualifications and the management of the Pentagon on Monday, marking a notable shift in the GOP sentiment toward one of the most contentious figures in the Trump administration. Hegseth, a Fox News personality with little prior experience in military leadership, has long been a polarizing figure. Bacon, who currently chairs the subcommittee of cyber issues in the House Armed Services Committee, made it clear that he had reservations about Hegseth from the outset of his nomination. Bacon's critique centers on Hegseth's lack of military experience and expertise on managing large-scale operations. I had concerns from the get-go because Pete Hegseth didn't have a lot of experience, Bacon said in a candid interview with Politico. Despite admitting that he enjoys Hegseth's work on Fox News, the Nebraska lawmaker expressed doubt about Hegseth's ability to lead one of the largest and most complex organizations in the world, the U.S. Department of Defense. And as a former Air Force general, Bacon's perspective is shaped by decades of experience in the military. His concern over Hegseth's application or qualifications highlight a growing unease among Hill Republicans, many of whom were reportedly uncomfortable with his nomination from the start. And rightfully so. I mean, they absolutely should have been uncomfortable with this. To all the people who have served in the military and put in years of serving in the military, to then be led around by a Fox News host is truly just an embarrassment in my mind. And that's the case with Trump's cabinet all the way across the board. He put unqualified loyalists in who are now up there speaking as though they're experts on the matter, just like Trump does. I know more about this than anyone. He's got RFK Jr. now, who thinks he's an autism expert, and I'm going to be doing more coverage on that fiasco. But what they're doing is completely reshaping and redirecting the narrative. And when Hegseth says we're changing the Department of Defense, no, they're destroying it from the inside out, and that's the whole intention. But Pete Hegseth should have been nowhere near any position of power. The guy's an absolute joke, as is Trump's entire cabinet. And we're always going to hold their feet to the fire. We're always going to point out that they weren't qualified. And, going back to those hearings that we had, I said back then, I said, look, you can bring up these people's personal lives all day. That don't matter because MAGA don't care. You're going to have to really go after their qualifications and keep pointing it out. Pete Hegseth will continue to say that we're all being hyperbolic and we're all spreading fake news, and we will continue to call out his fumbles when we see them. And this is one of the most massive departments we have. One that should raise everyone's eyebrows as to why in the hell this would happen. And folks, yeah, I voted Democrat my entire life. But if a Democratic president got in and then decided to have Jerry Springer, which Springer ain't with us anymore, but if they was to decided to have someone like that be the leader, let's let The Rock have a shot at it. No, that's not how it works. I want qualified people who can do the job. I don't have to always agree with them. I just want someone who can do the job. It's not about being loyal to one man. That's not patriotism. So they can sit and shout patriotism all day long, but being loyal to Donald Trump is not patriotism. That is worshiping a dictator, plain and simple.